I'll start by saying I haven't even looked at Snapchat since this new update thing came out. The whole format just like pisses me off. But one of you guys sent me a message and I opened it and they're like, I want another Dorytime. And I was like, oh my god, I haven't done a Dorytime in like months. And like, there's a lot of factors that go into me doing a Dorytime. I like really have to have the energy to do it. I have to have the space to do it. I like really can't talk to myself when people are around. Not to mention this freaking lighting. I have to like tap my phone every time I like turn my head or this happens. And I guess, you know, living at the LLC where you're forced to live in a closet-sized room or have really bad lighting all the time isn't very conducive for me having, like, the space and energy and time to do a Dorytime. But enough ranting. This Dorytime is about antidepressants and how I started them and came off of them. Now, for you who have been following me since the beginning, my first Dorytime wasn't a Dorytime, it was a rant about my ex-boyfriend. I was so angry at this kid and I broke up with him because I was like having anxiety and depression. He was pissed that I broke up with him. And I don't know, I guess he was just one of those people who like couldn't understand, wouldn't understand. My anxiety at that time in my life was like so uncontrollable that I just like couldn't function in a relationship whatsoever. You guys have heard this before. I was so sad. I was curled up in my room on the floor crying every single day for 3 weeks and then 2 extra weeks into vacation. Not because of the breakup, it was because of my anxiety and depression. And I like failed my classes, I flunked an exam, it was awful. So I went to the doctor. I could not hold myself together talking to the doctor at all. I was like, I'm fine. I don't need anything. I just need to know that I'm healthy. I told my doctor, no, I don't need antidepressants. I don't need medicine. And she just kind of looked at me and was like, oh. She convinced me by explaining to me that being on Lexapro, the antidepressant that I was put on, would mitigate my symptoms to a point where that I could come off of it healthily. She said it would be about a year process and then I could gradually taper off of it once I felt I was ready. So that was February, 2 years ago. I started Lexapro and oh my god, it changed my life. I felt amazing. Of course, amazing meaning I had no emotion or reaction to anything and I was very calm, level-headed, no anxiety whatsoever, but also no emotion. I guess it took a really big part of me away because I'm a very naturally charismatic person and I was still charismatic, I just didn't have this wah to me all the time for like a year. So then, through the natural series of my life events, I ended up in California around the time that I was supposed to begin to taper off of this medicine. February last year, I came back and did an RA interview and I felt so good. And then I went back to California and me and my friend. So instead of telling you this guy's name, I'm going to tell you that he's a Scientologist. And that we'll call him Man Y. So when I got back from New Hampshire in California, I was hanging out with my friend Man Y, and Man Y was like, hey, you should watch this Scientology video about drugs. And it was this really long video about how just the pharmaceutical industry is corrupt and fucked up and you don't need to be on antidepressants because they will, in the long term, kill you. I guess I'm a little ashamed to admit that I was scared off of my antidepressants through a Scientology video. Woo! But I came off of my antidepressants and oh my god. The symptoms. The withdrawals. Disgusting. Awful. Horrible. For like 4 weeks, I was nauseous, I was dizzy, I couldn't walk straight, I was falling over, I was just mind-fogged. I didn't know what was going on, and I was like, I just want to be off these antidepressants. I don't want these symptoms. But I had my energy and my charisma back, which was like crazy because I had gone an entire year without it, built who I was, and now I had to find myself again. Woo! And it sucks to say, but I still have anxiety. I still have panic attacks. I still have like this uncontrollable gut-wrenching feeling that immobilizes me sometimes, a lot of the time, especially in the winter, like right now. But this is me, and I learned the really good part of me while I was on antidepressants, and now I can merge it with the really awesome side of me that isn't on antidepressants. And this past year has just been like kind of a conglomerate of trying to make the two mix, and it's really hard, but I think eventually I'll get it. But overall, I really have to thank my friend Manwai for giving me that push I needed to come off of Lexapro without being near my primary care physician. I was terrified, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this really slowly, but I cut my doses in half. I cut them really low, increment by increment, and I was able to come off. But also, you can probably thank Manwai for making me crazy again, because without my antidepressants, I'm just like, I'm crazy.